Yeah, I know that last episode of What Is promised the next one would be about fighting American, but that's only because I forgot that this week is the last episode of WandaVision. So this is a little in-betweener to get you through the week and come to terms with the fact that WandaVision is ending. At least we have Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and Spider-Man 3 to look forward to, because I think that they're tied into this show somehow. Before I get into this episode, let me get some plugs in out of the way before we start. I have a 40-page comic anthology made up of 3 short stories that is out now. It's called Destructo Boy and Other Exciting Tales. It's part of a limited print run, so make sure you get your copy while it's hot. It is unfortunately limited to shipping to the 48 continental United States. I also have a TeePublic store where I sell shirts and now face masks. Marvel Fanfare was a bi-monthly anthology comic series that ran from 1982 to 1981. The series originally began with this Spider-Man Angel from the X-Men team-up where they went to the Savage Land. It's a pretty neat story. It's by Chris Claremont and Michael Golden. Eventually, more and more characters and stories were added, I think in like the 3rd or 4th issue. There's a little bit of Doctor Strange going on. And, every couple issues, the storylines would end and another team of people would come in and do their thing. So it's a pretty wide range of, talent and stories and characters and quality. Released in 1987, written by Roger McKenzie with art by Paul Smith and colors by Petra Scotesi, this is Marvel Fanfare 32. You'll notice that the cover features Captain America very prominently next to this Asian stereotype. That's because half of the book is taken up by a J.M. DeMatteis story about Captain America teaming up with Frogman to stop the villainous Yellow Claw. I won't be covering that story today, maybe sometime in the future. The book begins in the cool blue night streets of New York City. Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, and her hubby, the Vision, conclude their date night and are heading back to Avengers Mansion, I guess. But not before they stop at a flower cart operated by an old vagrant named Rosie.
Good evening, Rosie. This old street corner would not be the same without you.
Rosie smiles and gives Wanda the prettiest flower she has, like always. The two then walk away as Wanda smells the rose, and as they round the corner down another street, a man in a trench coat emerges from the shadows and walks up to Rosie. She asks if he'd like to buy a rose. The man just stares at her and then brandishes a screwdriver or a really skinny knife and says,
"Blood is red and warm."
Before Rosie even has the chance to scream, her lifeless body falls to the pavement. We are then greeted to an article from the Daily Bugle by Ben Urich. Urich? It says,
Night Beat by Ben Urich. That'll have to do, I guess. It wasn't that we didn't care. We simply didn't have the time. We never do. But someone did. Someone with the time to kill. And an ice pick. And so much hate that it must have ticked away in him like a bomb, until he exploded. Or maybe the Skid Row slasher simply intended to make a name for himself, like Richard Speck, or the Boston Strangler, or Jack the Ripper. We remember them with a morbid curiosity, but we quickly forget the victims. And, typically, we will not remember Rosie. She was a street person, faceless, nameless, and she was buried yesterday in an unmarked grave at the city's expense. There were no mourners. Saddest of all, there were no flowers.
an unspecified amount of time later, maybe like a week, I don't know, how long does it take to bury a person? Vision and Scarlet Witch stand in the rain at the cemetery where Rosie was buried. Vision laments that she died without anyone in the world to be there for her. She died without a name.
Vision, I know how you feel, but...
Do you, Wanda? You are a mutant, but still human. I am a synthezoid of microcircuits and synthetic flesh. A cold, uncaring machine.
No, the man I love. Who loves me.
Who loved her, Wanda? I have known the pain of loneliness. It is a death of sorts.
Or worse.
Cut to the 38th Precinct. Vision talks to a man named Captain Matteis about the Skid Row slasher as Matteis tries to use a vending machine. But when it doesn't dispense anything out, Vision walks over, sticks his hand inside, and kathunks out a Dr. Pepper. Hey, this is a Coke machine! Mateus walks through his doorway and into his office, as Vision walks through his doorway and into the office. Mateus says that the department is working on finding the serial killer as best they can, in between the homicides, muggings, breaking and enterings, rapes, runaways, arson, among many, many other things. Then he tells Vision,
"You superheroes save the world every now and then. We try to save a little piece of it every day."
which I just love that line. I think it's a great line, so I wanted to point it out. Another man, I guess he's an officer or detective or whatever, comes into the office and alerts Mateus about a hostage situation going on in Midtown. Mateus is like,
"Oh, God damn it. It just never ends."
It did for one nameless old lady, Captain.
Vision phases through the wall and flies away as he says that they owe her something more than just an unmarked grave. Cut to the Daily Bugle. Ben Urich is, I assume like always, the only employee left in the entire office after hours. He says that he'd love to help Vision, and then asks for a light. So Vision uses his energy beams from his eyes to light Ben's cigarette. Ben then sorts through some papers on his desk and tells Viz that if he wants to learn anything about Rosie, there might be one person who knows, and her name is Gertie. Vision then asks where he can find her, and Ben, smelling a good story, tells him that he can't. Not without help. So Ben and Vision get a taxi to Grand Central Station. The duo run into a beat cop named Ryan, and Ben asks him if he's seen Gertie around. Ryan says he did, but that was a little while ago, so she's probably hit the rails somewhere else already. As the two walk through the station, Vision questions what rails means, and Ben explains to him the lingo of the streets. And meanwhile, a coated figure stalks them. Ben and Viz scout out the waiting platforms, and, lo and behold, they find Gertie. Ben asks if she's heard about Rosie, and Gertie says that, unfortunately, she has. And then Ben inquires as to whether Rosie ever told her anything, really, aside from the fact that you can call her Rosie. But Gertie says she only got what everybody else did. Just plain Rosie. Ben then sadly thanks her for her help and slips her a couple of bucks, and they head on up the stairs. Vision asks what they do now, and Ben's like,
"Oh, well, man, it's a dead end. I don't know."
But then Gertie's screams echo through the station. Ben and Vision round the stairwell just in time to witness the slasher preparing to deal the finishing blow. Vision chases after him as Ben checks on Gertie. The slasher leaps down into the subway track and makes off into the darkness of a tunnel, but he is swiftly followed by the Vision. Then
At least it's over. The slasher won't kill again. Won't claim another nameless victim.
She had a name, Ben. The only one that ever really mattered.
Then he phases through it and flies off into the morning sky. And just look how fantastic this page is. I love this final page. Just from the layout to the art of it, how it's executed, to the colors. I love this short story. It's good, it's concise, Vision doesn't really do much. He sort of incites a man to suicide, but I mean, hey, that man's a murderer and serial killer, so it's not really that big of a deal, I guess. Probably that subway driver has been scarred for life, though. Marvel, bring back Fanfare and Marvel Comics Presents. Come on, why wouldn't you? It's essentially a proving ground for your IP farm that is Marvel Comics proper. Like, you get some young upcoming artists, put them on Marvel Fanfare, then move them on to... That's kind of what it used to be, I guess, especially Marvel Comics Presents. Marvel Fanfare is more of just groups coming in and out, but come on. You can get some good stuff out of this, and it doesn't have to be big names in these stories. This one's about Vision and Ben Urich, for God's sake. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode of What Is. Let me know what you thought of the story in the comments. And what are your thoughts on WandaVision? I think it's absolutely incredible, and I really hope that Disney releases it on Blu-ray for home release, because I'd love to own it. Don't leave any spoilers in the comments yet, and try and wait a couple of days until the episode's been out. Just so you know. You don't ruin it for anybody. Don't be a dick. Again, my 40-page comic, Destructo Boy and Other Exciting Tales, is on sale now for $19.99. Check out the link in the description. Follow me on Instagram at smokey'svideos and at notblakewild for updates on my 166-page graphic novel set in the Old West. I'll see you next time. Bye. Can you get closer to the mic?
I can't do Russian.
I know how you feel, but...
It's the V. Vision. No, I don't like it. Vision. Damn it.
Stop, you're thinking too hard about it.
Or worse. Damn it. Or worse. Or worse.
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 That probably would have been good if you stopped.
Just cut it out.
That's not how that works.
Good evening, Rosie.
A little more natural.
Well, that felt pretty good. I felt strong. Russian. Strong. I'm Russian. Good evening, Rosie. What I liked that one.
Sounds like someone took a bunch of clips of you and stringed them together to make a sentence.
This old street corner wouldn't be the same without you.
Why do you... you put emphasis on every other word. But just read it in your normal dialect.
Good evening, Rosie. This old street corner wouldn't be the same without you.
Yeah, don't put the emphasis on the same. That's not... I don't know why they did that. That's...
But you said it's emphasis, so you have to emphasize
it doesn't work all the time.